The just concluded NRM primaries have exposed vulnerabilities in the ruling party's internal democratic processes, leaving behind a trail of poll violence and fraud. This even as the party chairman, who also doubles as the head of state, has joined the chorus of condemnation and consequently appointed a special tribunal to look into these alleged electoral irregularities. On today's edition of Focus on Parliament, we ask which way Uganda, as the country inches closer to the 2026 general elections. I am now joined by esteemed personalities to help us make a sense of this topic. Let me introduce them, beginning from my immediate left. Is Mrs. Faridah Lule, making her debut on the program. Mrs. Lule is the Executive Director of Ushahidi Foundation, Uganda, a civil society organization focused on electoral integrity. It's a pleasure to have you, Faridah.
Thank you, Isaac.
Good morning. Say hello to the viewers.
Good morning, viewers, and have a lovely show.
Thank you, Faridah, for joining us. Next to Faridah is a regular on the program, Mr. Timothy Chemonges, the Executive Director of the Center for Policy Analysis and the Parliament Watch. Council, it's a pleasure to have you today. Say hello to the viewers.
Thank you, Isaac. I'm glad to be part of today's discussion. Good morning to our viewers, and thank you for having me here.
Always a pleasure, Dogo. Tim, let me start with you so that we could have some historical context to this conversation. We all understand that the core motivation for President Museveni's guerrilla 5-year-old struggle in the bush was on account of a disputed election in the 1980 national polls. But fast forward 40 years later, when he's in charge of the national affairs, his party cannot seem to organize free and fair elections. Why is this the case? Let us first understand what's motivating this reality.
So first, I should start by saying that, political parties form the bedrock of any democracy. And that political parties also play a role of aggregating the interests of its members, but also nurturing talent and nurturing ambition of its young, but also its members, to streamline and to take over power for the country to achieve specific things they desire. NRM, again, understanding that elections are fairly competitive, and among the things that is anticipated is sometimes challenges that may arise, and some of those that we see facing the primaries that has just been concluded in the NRM. So sometimes there is a level of expectation towards some of these challenges. However, what is paramount is that political parties, even at the national level, electoral commission, the ability to learn from the mistakes that have been done in the past. What we see today is that there is recurring of the same challenges that we've experienced in the past, but the unique bit that we see today is that much of it is happening in a more broad and open. It's being done now in the broad daylight,
brazenly,
with a level of high impunity, and that the individuals seem to exercise either some level of entitlement to some of these things, to some of this position, and it's either their way or the highway. So for me, again, is to say that NRM, first of all, whatever is happening within the party, it's part of the democratic dispensation, or the challenges and the opportunities that come with democracy. And ultimately, I think it's in the interest of the party to ensure that it streamlines, looks into the concerns that arise, but also see how to improve or leverage the opportunities that are there. I also should say that the NRM primaries that have just concluded should not be looked at in isolation. much of what we are seeing today is a clear reflection, or they're almost similar to what we see in the national, in the general elections. And understanding that NRM is the party in power. Sometimes most of these things have been facilitated or even masterminded by individuals within the party. For whatever reasons, I think that's another whole discussion. And so for me, I think that NRM, understanding first of all the amount of challenges, the amount of concerns, the things that we've seen arising from these primaries, ranging from we've seen underage sometimes voting, things ideally that should not be happening. We are seeing the question of corruption, the question of bribing, the question of, again, you see even things that ideally should be addressed, such as late arrival of electro materials. There are also concerns to, so there is quite a lot of challenges that are rising to this party. And for me, it's about the risk that the party faces as a result of the challenges that we are seeing. Because you see, NRM has enjoyed majority, especially at the MP level, at the member MP level. They have enjoyed majority. And it's in their best interest to maintain that by ensuring that whatever strategy they employ does not break the party, but also maintains the majority position in these elective positions. And so the recent move by the head of state, who is the chairman of the party, to come out to address these matters, but also to create some sense of confidence to the members that we've heard you, we've taken note of the concerns, and we are working towards addressing them. I think for me that is a very positive move. Ultimately, I think that also there should be a sense of responsibility and accountability of the mistakes that are done, without necessarily throwing blame here and there. I think accountability is important. NRM, again, as I mentioned, I think it's a party that enjoys support across the country. In fact, it's the only political party that is in position to field, candidates across the country and across the position, whether it's by faction, by the fact of the advantage of being in government, and most of these, of course, would be. But I think it's an opportunity for NRM to introspect, look into these matters, because again, there's been a perspective that NRM has greatly benefited from some of these challenges that we are seeing. Violence, which has meted both the by-elections, but also the general elections. And the thing that the citizens and the rest of us who are stakeholders have continued to highlight most of these things. The militarization of the electoral process is something that has been of keen interest, and we see the same even reflecting on the primaries. And so I think that the party in discussion now is NRM. I'm not so sure how PFF, for example, or NUP had been given this kind of opportunity, how that would be look like. I think NRM has stepped forward, and it's a party that we are looking into. But more fundamentally, I think that there's not been any goodwill, let alone the primaries, even at the national level, to ensure that there is free and fair election as reflected within the constitution. Because many of the things that we continue to see, both in the primary and in the general elections, are almost the same. For whatever reasons, for whoever it benefits, I think for many times the suspicion is that it benefits the party in power. We've just concluded, for example, a by-election in Kawempe. And much of the things that you see there are similar to what you're seeing in most of the areas in the NRM primaries. My assessment and my thinking is that either the members are learning from the best, and this is being either put to be part and parcel of the practice of the party, or alternatively, there seems not to be clear accountability within these structures for the errand members or individuals who choose otherwise. And so I agree with the position that I think there's been a fundamental deviation from what the NRM had initially thought in terms of the things that they really wanted to achieve and what they are practicing. In fact, I think that the question of the rule of law has been defiled, and that we are in a space where the law is used to legitimize processes as opposed to be used to streamline the distribution and the management of the people in the country. Yeah.
Tim, before I move on to Faridah, do you think that the current mode of voting, which the NRM has adopted, which critics have called archaic and undemocratic, which is to line up behind your preferred candidate's choice, could be fueling some of these challenges?
So I think that the challenges that we see, whereas I agree that the lining up behind the candidate approach may not be the desirable, but it's one of the available options for political parties to employ, given the dynamics and the challenges at hand, but also the preferences really of the political party. It's not in the dictate. You see, political parties are an aggregation of the members' interests. And whichever direction they choose to take as far as having their matters clearly represented, I think it's really at their discretion. But it's an option that is available to NRM to explore. Now, in terms of looking at the other options, I've seen other parties like NUP have opted to do head hunting. I think there is
vetting process.
There is quite a number of those, but largely also I think that also is very controversial. There are a lot of shortfalls from my view, which I've shared with some of them in terms of the challenges that mechanism poses. I think that this one, while there are challenges, I think that we must give it up to NRM. I think that it's an option to them to explore. I think what has failed is the question of management. The management of this process. I agree there are shortfalls in terms of this process. Sometimes it undermines the dignity of voting, where voters must, their right to choose is sometimes compromised, because sometimes of conflict of interest. You are going to line up against a candidate who probably is your friend, is your relative, and you are voting for his competitor. And so I think there are definitely shortfalls for most of these modes. But for me, my focus, I would be more interested in terms of how these processes are managed, how the goodwill that political parties have towards addressing the issues that arise. Because for me, I think there are bigger problems in the parties than just the mode of elections. If you look at most of these things, violence in elections, while it is true that it could have been contributed to, maybe you could say maybe the lining, but I think violence is one of those things that either there is very lack of accountability, or sometimes it's not a thing that you can directly link it to the lining up. It's a question of management. But also for me, again, looking at those challenges, political parties have a bigger problem in terms of their organization, in terms of their question of resourcing, and maybe the mode of voting. Whereas it's important, I think there is a problem in terms of how they are managed.
Thank you, Timothy, for sharing your assessment. Faridah, you are an advocate for electoral integrity and good democratic practice in the country. But I want us to center the discussion now on the president's decision to appoint a 29-member tribunal to inquire into these alleged irregularities, and if they are satisfied that there is sufficient reason, call for a fresh elections in most of the affected hotspots. Do you think this is the correct way to go? Will it address the root causes of the challenges?
Thank you, viewers, and thank you, Isaac. I think the president is not addressing the real cause of the disease. He is the chairperson, he is the chairman of the NRM. The NRM has been in power for over 30 years. But the tribunal itself is some good initiative that can comfort, that can solve a little bit of some challenges or problems. It's a very good initiative, but it will not solve the problems that NRM has. First of all, we have to go back to the management of this election. One, the NRM party has been in power, I'll repeat, it has been in power for some time, but maybe after 40 years, we are seeing that they are now starting to walk. Why? Before, they had a handwritten register. For all those years, they were using a handwritten register. And I don't think they had nothing. They did not have a feeling that what we are really doing is wrong. We need to style up. Those handwritten registers were actually managed by individuals. Someone who is big in the district, someone who has influence in the party will actually hold on to those handwritten. He will write actually, whoever thinks those people will influence whatever is going on the register. But I would celebrate the little development that they have registered in these party primaries. They just concluded party primaries of having at least a kind of a well-organized register, though it had some irregularities. But at least it jumped from the handwritten to a digital one, and at least some people were it was not in the hands of an individual, and it was not managed by an individual. I remember in one of the past elections where the daughter of Honorable Amama Babas was controlling the whole register, and she was so influential that everyone had to see that he or she is in good what? She's in good. I want to find a better word that will not. I really wanted to find a better word for not being in good books with the daughter of Mama Babas. So I really think that at least they have shifted a little bit from that funny register. There's some improvement in that area of the register. But when it comes to real management of this election, they have really performed very poorly. And first of all, if you are going to organize an election, you should have a code of conduct, you should have guidelines, you should show your people where you are going. But you would see that they are using a lot of money. I don't know where they are getting that money to conduct a national election, because it is like a national election. This is a party. We know that their resources they are getting their resources from the membership, the MPs actually subscribing, even the candidates. That money alone cannot help a party election to organize a national election. So we need to question, where are they getting the money to actually organize that election? They are getting resources from government. How? They are using government vehicles to actually transport the electoral materials. They are using government civil servants to actually supervise and getting involved in the entire election. So we have to question the whole management, whether it is it is a clear process. Two, if you are seeing the president saying that no, Tango Doi, stay aside, but for me, I would celebrate Tango Doi. Why? He has managed to show what needs to be done. Only organizing those polling materials, it's not a joke.
So you are absolving Tango Doi of any
liability, leave alone responsibility? He is entirely responsible for all other irregularities, because when you take on the mantle, You have to make sure that you have appreciated and you know that you are going to manage. If you know that you are not going to manage, then you better step aside and say, no, I cannot actually take on this big role. But once you come up and you say that I'm going to manage this election, all the challenges, all the other things that are irregularities that come across, you have to honor them. But that does not stop me from appreciating the small things that he has actually achieved. One, printing ballot materials for all those polling, because I don't think there is a polling station or there is a village that said we do not have polling materials. Despite the fact that they reached late, some of them reached late. Those are the challenges that one would expect. But at least for me, as an election observer, I observed that he was able to transport polling materials to where they were supposed to do. He actually managed to print polling materials. Those are the few things that I actually celebrate. Even having candidates, nominating candidates on the ground, that is actually, for me, a plus. But you cannot have polling materials. You cannot have all the materials for election day when you have not prepared the people that you want to participate in that process. Did you have a code of conduct to these candidates? Did you train the people who are going to conduct the election?
How would you rate Chairman Tango Doi in the area of supervision? Has he effectively supervised?
No, I think I'll give him 30% out of 70. Because I don't know how their budget was, but they were supposed to have a good minimal supervision, which they cannot actually achieve because they don't have the human resource. You'd see that everyone wants to jump on the queue because there is money. There is money here, so let me see how I can be deployed. You know? But NRM, as a party, has to go back to the drawing board. If you have all these resources and you cannot put the show, a very good show, to the public to appreciate and say, yes, okay, these people have the resources, they have this, and this is what at least they have presented a very better election or electoral process. But no, despite the fact that you have all the resources, you have the security, you have everything, still you do not actually perform to your expectations. So, to the people's expectation. So how would NRM actually choose electoral commission if electoral commission also fails to supervise and also present a better election? Will we not hear similar voices from the NRM party choosing the electoral commission when they have also failed? So I think the country needs to go back on the drawing board. We should not have elections for just. It is not a matter of having an election. This is not a football match. You know, I think when Timothy mentioned the process, I will not credit NOP, but I think if you know that you are not ready for such a big show, you rather go for the NOP way of doing things, assessing. If, in fact, the NRM party would assess its candidates and know, you know, they have and
that also has its complications.
I know, but if you have have put across a tribunal that is going to assess the irregularities and a tribunal is going to hear the petitions from the different candidates, you can as well put a committee, an independent committee that you trust as a party. One, it will solve the violence. Two, you are utilizing the voters, the same voters who are going to vote for those people in the general elections. They are the same voters who are actually going to mess up the election by fighting. You don't even have the authenticity that these are your voters, because there is no guarantee that if I have an NRM card that I belong to NRM, it does not stop me from having a card from FDC. Neither should I be stopped from having a card from NOP. Even at that particular time when we are having those party primaries, that check is not there. That, you know, all these people, yes, they registered, they are in the register, but that does not stop them from being other members to different parties, meaning that you are not going to have a safe election, the credibility of that election does not stand at all. So I think if you have it, you are better off having an independent committee that can assess your candidates, because you know that at least you know that you set grounds of assessing whom you would want to represent you as a party. And if that person fits that ground, then you can say, okay, Faridah, we are going to have you in Kampala Central because of ABCD. You have competed, even these other 4 people have actually presented themselves, but as a party, we think you will best represent us. Without any influence, you have actually saved a lot of money. You have saved a lot of irregularities that will have actually happen in printing all those ballot materials that are actually not going to help you at the end of the day. Because why am I saying they're not going to help you at the end of the day? You are having several petitions. How many petitions now do they have? Over 100, over 200 petitions. So it means that if they had done the NUP way of having, or the PPF way of having candidates at that level, and you save the country the tension and the violence, then at the end of the day, let us see the mandate of the Electoral Commission, and we all focus and we support. The Electoral Commission does not even have money for voter education. You are giving it 300 million to do voter education. And we are seeing money flying all over in the party. But you are in the party in the leadership.
Interesting perspectives. Thank you, Faridah. Timothy, the fallout from these election-related disputes in the NRM internal democratic processes is quite unprecedented. I think we have the highest number of dissatisfied aspirants or candidates, for that matter, which has a direct impact on the cohesion and sustained unity of the party. Do you think this could affect the effectiveness of the party going forward into the 2026 general elections?
I think it poses a great risk to the first of all, to the cohesion of the party, because again, you know, for every political party, the bedrock lies with the members. Having members who you can rely on, members who are proud, and they can, you know, proudly associate with the party. Of course, the other things around political parties on resourcing and the structures. So what we are seeing today, if not handled well, it's likely to, you know, disorganize and create some sort of division within the political party. But also, which is more important for political parties, the remarks and the missives that you've seen President Museveni putting out, it's not common of him to do that. It tells you of the risk that this challenge that they are facing has, or could, the impact it could have on the political party. Of course, the other biggest challenges, at least for the party, is that you would have more independence coming up from these primaries, which is a great risk for NRM. Because you see, NRM has again enjoyed the majority in most of these positions. Now, if you have almost half, or maybe a bigger percentage of these positions that were being contested, those members going as independent, whereas they may still be aligned to NRM, you do not want to have a situation as a party where you have more independents running, though they are affiliated to NRM. It has a great impact on the image, on the impact, but also the ability of the party to influence. As you may know, for example, maybe just citing one of the positions that are being contested around the members of parliament. You know, parliament is a majoritarian institution, which means that it's the majority's way that takes the day. The minority only are left to have their say. Now, and you've seen for the many years, NRM has been able to enjoy that majority, and they have had their way in even things that sometimes the country does not agree with. But they have the numbers, and they still have their way. So that is one thing that NRM, if this process is handled, it's likely to cause a crack. Secondly, is around the structures that NRM has built and continue to invest a lot of resources to it. Because NRM, one of the things that NRM enjoys is its ability to put in place its structures right from the national to the lower levels of society. If conflict arises, those structures are destabilized. Members are disoriented. You have a few others threatening to move, others are moving to other political parties, or even not getting interested. And so I think that conflict, while it is anticipated, the manner in which it's handled is very, very paramount. I think that your assessment is true, that this time round we seem to have more aggrieved members of NRM than in the previous elections. But also it should tell you that I think that over the years there's been high interest by members or by the citizens to participate in this process, not just as voters, but also as those who are standing in these positions.
Candidates.
Of course, we need to assess and maybe come to a position and understand why there's much interest in some of these positions. And in our last week's show, we seem to agree, at least the panel that was here, that there is the economic interest that is attached to most of these positions. Even when the candidates themselves would put in a lot of money to either win or even be part of the process. So I think that there is definitely a lot of risk that NRM is facing if the process is not well handled. But I think that what we are seeing today, which is a good thing, and I think that the president has managed, is the level of reassurance, which I think is very important for any political party, to ensure that as a chairperson or as the head of the political party, members feel, or it must be seen for their concerns to be heard. It must be seen for their concerns to be acted upon. And when you see the president coming out, it's a sense of reassurance on the issues that have been raised to be addressed. And I think that looking at the president's perspective and the concerns he has, there's going to be a bit more focus on the issues, and there will be more firm decisions that we are likely to see from the dispute resolution committee that has been put in place.
Timothy, reading the president's missive, the president falls short of directly criticizing Dr. Tango Doi, who is the chairperson of the NRM's electoral committee. That is the body that has chiefly overseen and organized this exercise. But he says that the people that are responsible, actually, he names him personally, that Tango Doi is the person that is responsible for most of these mistakes. It cannot be him now who is seen to correct the mistakes. Does that threaten the position of the chairperson of the NRM's electoral body?
Absolutely, yes. I think that, it is true that the buck stops with the chairperson or the highest person who has been designated with the mandate. Whether it's a fault of the juniors and the other, the buck stops with Tango Doi on matters election. And the decision by the president to actually name and be very clear in terms of accountability in the political party and say, Tango Doi, you've been part of the issues of the mess. For me, first of all, it's from a point of reassurance, really, by the president, that we are working, we are going to take action, and the leader of the electoral commission, or of the party's electoral commission, is Tango Doi, who has been responsible, and we are going to engage with him. Now, definitely, what that does is that definitely it raises issues. Of course, you'll see if you, let alone even the president, when you hear members of the political party, NRM party, there are a lot of concerns that are being raised, targeting or being raised directly to the chairperson and his commission, in terms of management, in terms of many of the things that, whether it's actual or it's perceived or it's that's another whole issue. I think that there's an issue. Members are dissatisfied. Members are raising issues, and ultimately the party has to take an action. Sometimes for the sake of the members, an action, and many times the sacrificial lamb will be the chairperson of the electoral commission. I've seen him come out very, very firm also, trying to make a case as to why he shouldn't be held accountable, or he shouldn't be crucified for some of the mistakes that have happened. But I think that as we see today, I think there's going to be a bit of an action because of the concerns that we are seeing today. The party must be seen to act. The party must be seen to respond to the issues that the members are raising. And what I foresee is that Tanga Odoi may be the sacrificial lamb in this case. Yeah.
Thank you, Timothy, for sharing your perspective. Focus on Parliament now takes a short break. Do stay with us. We'll see you back shortly.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media, or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back. Glad you're still watching Focus on Parliament on Civic Space TV. In this segment, we continue discussing the fallout from the NRM party primaries, which have ended into total chaos, prompting the intervention of the president to appoint a 29-member special tribunal to inquire into the alleged malpractices and irregularities. Faridah, do you think that this trend that we are currently witnessing could have an impact on the conduct of the 2026 general elections now across the board at a national level?
True. I think the Electoral Commission is also watching, because it is also not clean when it comes to most of those irregularities. So they are watching and they are picking lessons from what has happened in NRM. And I think a few corrections will be made. We will see that there is some good improvement. I hope so. But I think they will have some good input in whatever has happened to help them clean the process, the general elections. Yes.
How is that to be done in your considered opinion?
One, I think the chairman of the Electoral Commission has looked at how the returning officers are actually getting money, and it will not stop from primaries, the NRM primaries. Even the returning officers, even the presiding officers will be bribed. People will want to actually give money to these people. So it is upon him to actually caution them and put severe penalties to whoever is found messing up the election because of money exchanging hands. And then also how he's going to engage with the security. For me, I think the security during NRM primaries played a very good key role in actually ensuring that they minimize the violence. We have over 146 districts. So if in over 146 districts, there are some districts that actually do not register any violence, it means that the security at least improved when you compare in Kawempe, and also if you compare in the past NRM primaries, there's some good conduct that has been registered with security operatives. So and these are the very people who are actually going to supervise and secure the electoral materials or the elections, who are going to be part of the general elections. So I think the conversation, in the meetings that the Electoral Commission will have with security, they should have to raise these issues such that we do not see some of the messes that maybe has come from the security arm actually going into the general elections. So they have lessons to learn, and they have ample time to actually clean up and prepare for the general elections. Yes.
Thank you. Timothy, one of the predominant concerns surrounding the conduct and management of elections in Uganda, especially during the 40-year tenure of the NRM, has been the militarization of the electoral processes, or the democratic dispensation in broad terms. Going into the 2026 general elections and having a clear reflection on the just concluded NRM primaries, how is this going to play out?
So looking at the just concluded Kawempe by-elections, it worries me that the pattern is not likely to change. Most likely we are likely to see increased military involvement in this process. Also, this is supported by some of the either comments, tweets, or the posts by the Chief of Defense Forces on the X about some of these concerns. It not only signifies or signal to a direction where we are likely to have high involvement of the military in this process, but also, the partisan nature in how they continue to interface in this process. Of course, the biggest worry, and again, picking one of the things that I observed from the Kawempe by-election, is the overrun of the Electoral Commission by the military. In fact, if you could see what happened there are times when Electoral Commission was left helpless. They fell short of really being sent away. Even when some people were being beaten, things were happening that ideally should not be happening. The Electoral Commission was really helpless. They could do nothing. You get it? So I think that those are some of the things that we are likely to see. And unfortunately, the question of militarization of politics in Uganda has gotten worse in each of these by-elections. Of course, sometimes we want to understand to whom or who does this sort of practice benefit. The NRM will tell you that because of the heavy deployments and some of these things, it disfavors us. But in the overall strategy is that when you militarize the process, first of all, you create fear. You create fear, or even of voters turnout. And there is a lot of fear in terms of even what it looks like to go and freely participate. So it's likely it affects the voter turnout. 2, it affects the free and fair environment for where elections should happen, where voters, citizens should participate in this process free and fair. Whereas it is true, and it's really good practice, that security is guaranteed for the citizens, this should not be used to frustrate or even make the whole process counterproductive by what we've seen, where citizens are beaten, citizens are intercepted, citizens are kidnapped, sometimes for reasons best known to some of these individuals. So there's increased level of impunity, especially by these forces that ideally should be disciplined forces. You see, their involvement is with high level impunity. Citizens are beaten, citizens are tortured, and there is no clear accountability mechanism. Nothing happens to some of these individuals. Sometimes you see that there is a very clear instruction. In the Kawempe by-election, and you'll allow me use that because it's the most recent, probably it should be a clear signal. It just happened a few months to the general election. We saw the discussions around having individuals in uniform, others with identifications, others without any identification, others with masks, and you could see the discussion between the minister in charge of internal affairs, that's General Faridah Otafire, and the CDF. Whereas General Otafire says that identification is very important, both by the tags, but also the masking practice, which is increasingly being part of this process. The CDF thinks that it is absolutely okay, and the military and most of these individuals should be masked, and their identity should be kept away as a means of avoiding accountability, really. So it places us in a very unique place, and as you may see, again, we recently passed the UPDF Amendment Bill. One of the contentious sections in there is now the trial of civilians in military courts. A thing that for many times has been very useful, especially during election period, that citizens sometimes the trial in court martial is used to control and to prevent fair and it's more targeted, really. And so I think that when you look at some of these signs, it tells you that there is a very deliberate move to ensure that the question of military involvement in elections, the question of impunity in the electoral process is greatly encouraged by the government. But also, more importantly, I think that most of these practices, whereas NRM and its members seem to think that they seem to cry foul of most of these challenges that we are seeing in their primaries. They seem to be the masterminds of some of these things. The violence that we see in elections, they are in charge of government. We should be holding them accountable. They are in charge of most of these most of the organs and institutions that sometimes. So you find that they utilize that in the interest of the party. Talk about resources, talk about influence, and many of these things. One of the signs that left many of us worrying in the just concluded primaries, you could see ministers, state ministers, and some of these individuals in government utilizing their bodyguards, the police officers that guard them, to beat up people, to disorganize the whole place, and sometimes to even cause chaos. Something that's absolutely and goes against the electoral process, but also broadly about the rule of law in the country. So I think that we are in a place as a country where the question of militarization is at the core of the current government. And there is very little that can be done about that. I think what we need to do is citizens must peacefully and willingly really participate in these processes. No violence, participate, and because again, so when as a citizen you engage in violence, you fall in the trap of all this mess. Sometimes the individuals who operate very well in violence, and the citizens, the best approach is maybe to just be able to participate in the process and avoid violence, really.
Timothy, let's for a moment reflect on the crucial aspect which you have highlighted of the electoral management body, the Electoral Commission, being overrun by the military. Do you have confidence as a governance specialist that the Electoral Commission can deliver a credible, free and fair election in 2026?
So, you see, we must understand, first of all, what does it mean to deliver a free, fair and credible elections? I think it's first of all on the independence of this institution as an assessment of the ability of the commission to be independent to make a decision. From where I stand today and looking at the things as they are today, it is very unlikely that the Electoral Commission can independently, or its independence can fully say that we are independent and we can be able to, without any interference, deliver a free and fair elections. There are questions to do with financing. There's questions to do with the military now, the interest of the military in some of these processes, but also the intimidation that we've seen and we continue to see to the election officers and most of those. I think for me, looking at some of these challenges that the Electoral Commission is, as it stands today, at the presidential level, it is very unlikely that they can be able to actually announce someone else. I recently saw the judgment of the remarks by the late Kanyihamba, may his soul rest in peace, about I think some years back, either in 2006, when
the 2006 presidential election.
I think when the matter went to the Supreme Court, the intimidation that happened there is something that the late Kanyihamba tries to explain and shows you the interest that the government sometimes may have in terms of or even let's say the risk that poses or looks at you in case you have an alternative view against the incumbent. So I think that as we stand today, the Electoral Commission, first of all, maybe the other component that I had forgotten to mention was around the ability of the citizens to even understand their participation in this process, something that we've fallen short completely. Civic awareness, civic engagements, voter education is something that has not happened. We are less than, we are a few months to the general elections. Electoral Commission seems to think that they are doing voter education, but there is very little that is happening. In fact, citizens seem not to understand what is happening, except for this tokenism that is happening here, and you have young people running around, and you may think that they even understand what they should do for in voting the candidate. I think there is very little that has happened there. I told you that the civil society organization have been attempting really to have the Electoral Commission encourage them to participate in this process and to ensure that there is civic awareness. I saw the other day they did respond, but a number of organizations, I saw CCG was the Center for Constitutional Governance was denied accreditation, and maybe a few others that I may not know. But there is the approach of the Electoral Commission in these elections tells you that there is very little to do with the people. There is more to do with the political class, and so its ability, its position to actually deliver a free and fair election is something that for me it's a bit far to be realized.
Thank you, Timothy, for your viewpoints. Faridah, as we sum up, listening to Timothy and all those views that he has about the possibility of the Electoral Commission organizing a free, fair and credible elections, what do you think would be some of the key recommendations that could perhaps be considered and employed in the 2026 general elections?
One of the key issues that the Electoral Commission should actually emphasize is intensive voter education. Like as he has mentioned, there is insufficient voter education. We are actually, as civil society organizations, applied in October to be accredited to have to support the Electoral Commission, since we have already realized that they cannot alone manage to sensitize the public, to give enough information to the public. So I was part of the organizations that actually applied. But
have you been accredited?
Yes, they have accredited me, but there is a process of actually approving the messages that you want to put across. So we are still in that back and forth of approving the messages, and there is no time. So because by September we will be going into nominations. So, and there is some simple message that actually needs to go out that people do not know up to this time around, is that what are we going to use during this election? Are we going to use the expired voter voter national IDs? Or if I don't have a national ID, I'm not actually going to vote. So that message has not come out clearly, and the people are just there, they do not know, and it is upon the Electoral Commission, even us now that have been accredited, to actually sensitize people and tell them that despite the fact that your national ID is expired as per NIRA, you will still vote if you have registered, because your NINI number does not change. You will still carry the same NINI number even in the new process of actually renewing your ID. But not everybody knows that information, has actually got that opportunity to understand. The people in the villages do not actually know. They think that now if I don't get actually the ID, I will not be able to participate. And the assurance that I'm giving is that the candidates also, they will actually take advantage of this lacuna, and they will begin telling people that if you don't have a renewed national ID, please, you're not going to vote in areas where they think that they do not have enough support. So it's upon us to emphasize this, because this is very key and if we don't address it, we'll see low voter turnout in 2026. The issue of militarizing the electoral process, whether the Electoral Commission is actually in charge of conducting this election. I think there's still some mistrust, and the Electoral Commission has to come out very clearly to actually show how they are independent to actually deliver a 2026 general elections after Kawempe, because we have not seen any initiative that can actually shown to the public that actually we are here, we can do better, we will not be influenced, just like how we are overpowered in Kawempe, because Kawempe is another scenario. That is the reason as to why even security is saying that there is high investigations. I pray that this time around they also have that report come out, because what happened in Kawempe, for sure, I was there, I was accredited to be an observer, and whatever I saw, I could not imagine that this was an election. So Electoral Commission, you still has a lot in actually ensuring that the training of the presiding officers, the people that you are going to deploy, are actually credible enough. They will not mess up an election, just like this, what has happened in NRM primaries. But still, we still want to see the voice of the president that has come out clearly in the NRM primaries, come out still clearly supporting the commission, giving the commission its independence, with avoiding the interference of military. I know that we have had so many voices. I think we had Honorable General Kahindo Tafire come out clearly and say, what is UPDF doing in the election? You have no business in elections. Your business is protecting the country, the borders of the country. But still, despite his view and his remarks, you would still see UPDF in the election. I keep on wondering, when will we see Uganda Police Force exhibiting the mighty, showing that they have the capacity to actually implement their mandate? Because every time we have an election, they have to get sister organization. Even in a by-election, a small by-election of Kawempe, which has only 9 parishes, a mayor police, security, police, Uganda police cannot manage an election of a by-election in Kawempe. You really had to call in other security operatives, maybe the sister organizations, because the law says that they give them the mandate to actually call on the other security operatives to help to support. But Kawempe was just 9 parishes with 200 voters. and not all of them actually turned up to vote. So we want to see our police that we always give money as taxpayers. You exhibit yourself that really we can actually do even these small things, apart from beating people around and arresting people at the same time and giving them money and then releasing them. That curfew is also there. So we want to see our Uganda, we want to feel proud of our Uganda police. And also, we really want to see that the register, we do not want to see anomalies in the register. You have had a good time, you have had enough time. We do not want to see any irregularities in the national register. We want to see that everyone who participated in actually registering to participate in this election is on the register. We do not want to see what we have seen in the NRM primaries, that people were actually nominated. The candidates who were nominated, they are not in the register. So I don't think that the Electoral Commission would actually go to that extent. We want to see a clean register happening in 2026 general elections.
I must appreciate you, my panelists, Faridah, Lule, and Mr. Timothy Chemonges, for your able participation on today's edition of Focus on Parliament. Many thanks to our esteemed viewers for your time. And indeed, thanks for your company. Much appreciation to the production department for keeping us live on air. Our dear viewers, please engage us on our various social media platforms. We are on X, we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram. You can also watch and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll see you next time. Be blessed.